Hello everybody. You're kind of seeing a little sneak peek of my new background that I slaved over this past weekend, or my partner and I. Man, I was working on this stuff for like hours, including setting up like the new camera stuff. And I had such a bad headache that just hit me near the tail end of it, so bad that I felt like I was gonna faint. And I think I was on the verge of a panic attack, to be honest, because I couldn't breathe and then I started shaking. So I had to just stop everything, turn everything off, and head over to the living room, lay on the couch and just like close my eyes and try to breathe. But anyways, I am getting ready for my day. Today is Monday. Oh God, I have so much pain right here. Oh. I'm hoping to see a maxillofacial surgeon soon. They're kind of basically like oral surgeons because I have really bad jaw pain because my jaw is not placed right and it affects me medically. So it's not just an aesthetic thing. It affects like my breathing. My jaw here dislocates every time I open it. It affects my bite as well, like my ability to chew food, stuff like that. So normally when you guys see me talk, this is the fixed jaw that my orthodontist did for like 5 years. He brought my jaw forward, so he fixed it aesthetically, but it's not permanently fixed. So the front of my teeth do touch, but the back of my teeth don't. So actually like my jaw goes back and forth, reverting from old bite back to the fixed bite, back to the old bite, because I have to go here to chew my food, go here in every other situation. And that's not good for the stuff here that connects all that and does all that movement. So yeah, my jaw has been progressively getting worse with clicking and pain. I pretty much have chronic pain now. The ENT specialist, when checking everything out, said that my jaw here dislocates completely when I open my mouth. I'm gonna see if I could try to show you guys. Yeah, so that's not normal. So I'm hoping to get that fixed through surgical intervention. Ew, I feel sticky. I don't like it. I'm gonna go wash my hands actually. So I wanted to talk about something a little bit controversial. I'm still debating on, you know what? I'm not debating. I wanna make a main channel video about this. I just need time to like gather my thoughts about this specific topic to really feel confident in being able to speak on it in a respectful way. And this is gonna be an interesting topic, so I really want you guys to weigh in and tell me your opinions and things like that. But it's this topic of the severity levels of autism and how there's these levels of like level 1 autism, level 2 autism, level 3 autism. And because of that, there's this whole concept of, well, you don't look autistic, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard this before. I myself heard it a lot. I still hear it. As recently as visiting the ENT specialist last week, you know, when he saw that I was autistic, or when I told him, he like looked at me and then he was just like, oh, but it's not that bad though. And this is like, I want to be so careful talking about this because I spent years working with autistic kids and autistic adults. I know that there are autistic people out there that have very severe autism and they're dependent on others in order to survive. And I understand how it could be triggering for parents of these individuals or for caretakers of these individuals to see people like me getting diagnosed with autism. And I say this because I am a part of online forums and groups of autistic individuals, and I saw a post today asking someone to help explain to her, like, let me check really quick what she was asking specifically. Okay, so she was asking about autistics and the differences between high support needs and low support needs. There were comments that were basically talking about how they kind of feel like everyone's being diagnosed with autism nowadays when they have other things. Those other things are just other developmental disorders. And then there's another person kind of just opening up about how her son is like a nonverbal autistic and she feels frustrated that there's other people out there getting diagnosed and seen as an autistic when they don't struggle as much as him or something, that he's kind of put in the same category as them, which is harmful to him because like maybe people won't treat him a certain way or be as accommodating to him because they expect him to perhaps be functioning at the same standard as people that are higher functioning, I guess. And when I read these comments, I was really like frustrated and disappointed, but also like understanding. And I just like want to process this with you guys because I think this is going to be a very prominent topic for the next, I don't know, decade, honestly, as more and more people get diagnosed with autism. And I imagine as research is getting performed again based off of the new diagnosis, and maybe the DSM-5 of autism is going to change drastically. I think our idea of autism, both socially and clinically, is going to expand a lot more. And so I think because that's going to happen, and I feel like it's going to happen because people like me are getting diagnosed, and I have viewers that reach out to me and tell me about their journey of getting diagnosed, and they're similar to me. So I know this is happening. I think it's important to talk about this concept of high support needs, low support needs, the concept of the validity of autism. And I'm gonna try not to cry because I can get very passionate about things, and I don't think I've had enough time to fully process this topic in a way where I can like very calmly talk about it and detach myself a little bit. So I apologize if I start tearing up. I'm gonna try not to do that. What I really want to say off the bat to like start this topic off is the fact that I really hate it when people feel the need to invalidate other people in order to validate themselves. I understand where it comes from. I understand that you do it because you have struggled, you don't feel heard, and you maybe inherently believe that you will not be heard or understood unless you invalidate someone else. I see this happening all the time, right? I see it happening a lot with doctors, especially.
I was a driven workaholic doctor. Now, why was I a driven workaholic doctor? Because the message I got as an infant is that the world didn't want me. Now, how do you deal with not being wanted? You make yourself needed. So if you're traumatized and if you don't think you're lovable, my God, go to medical school. Now they're gonna want you all the time. When they're dying, when they're being born, every moment in between. And that's highly addictive because you get the validation all the time. A lot of people that go into medicine, the last thing they want is to be open and vulnerable. In fact, what they want is the authority of the white coat and the stethoscope. And medical school is very hard on people. You might look at it almost as a selection process that weeds out the people that are too vulnerable. The long hours, the deference to unreasonable authority, the stress that you are willing to subject yourself to. And these are the people that, like me, become physicians. So that selects out against the vulnerable.
I saw this a lot when I was getting my diagnoses for the endometriosis, for the autism, and for the ADHD. You see doctors trying to explain to you all their knowledge, and they're just talking at you. It's almost like they don't feel comfortable just explaining something to you, why they think what they think, why they came to their conclusion. A lot of the times these doctors will invalidate other doctors who gave you certain opinions that may not align with them and say that they're wrong and that they know better because of A, B, and C. I brought this up to the doctor that evaluated me for the autism. I said, why do doctors do that? He's kind of like a hippie, you know? He's a neuropsychologist, but he like came to our session in like shorts and flip-flops, and he had long curly hair. And he was like, you know, doctors don't like you questioning their opinions because they believe that what they say is the end-all be-all. And I think that's what it all comes down to. Insecurity. I just feel so frustrated when people feel the need to invalidate others. I just want to shake them and be like, you do know that your experience, your opinions are valid. I can hear you out without you needing to invalidate other people or me. You do know that, right? There's so much space on this earth, in this world, that multiple different opinions and circumstances and existences can all live together at the same time. I just get so frustrated. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm frustrated because I feel personally affected by comments like that. It's not fair because I know that there is a better way to understand and cope with all of this within this topic specifically. And the more people try to blame each other and invalidate each other, the more of a divide there's going to be within the community. And I don't think there's enough space to create more divide. We need to like support each other within this community as much as possible because, you know, life is already so freaking hard and people already don't understand us that much and the disorder that much. You know, people in our personal life, people in our work life, people even in the medical field already don't understand us. So it's just like, now we're gonna like fight amongst each other about like, oh, I wish people like you weren't diagnosed because then people like my son are gonna be grouped in with people like you and it's not fair. You know what? Like, life's already not fair. And instead of holding on to an old way of doing things and being, perhaps surrender to the inevitable. Surrender to the fact that there's more people getting diagnosed. Surrender to the fact that those people were widely not diagnosed before because their autism was not as obvious, more easily hidden. And surrender to the fact that that will change how everyone views autism and treats it altogether, the accommodations that will come along with it, right? Surrender to that. I feel like there's going to be an inevitable evolution of how we view autism and how we integrate autistics when we realize that, oh my God, there's a lot more autistic people than we thought. Oh my God, our idea of autism wasn't what we thought. Maybe those changes are good. I know changes are scary. I know it's scary, especially when it's already been hard to make ends meet before, but perhaps changes are a good thing. As someone who's come from a lot of trauma, I know the power of change. I know that there's times where you may not know what's ahead of you. You may not know how things are gonna change or if it's even gonna be good or better, but all you freaking know is that what has already been happening doesn't have a place here anymore, and you can't keep functioning that way anymore. Basically, what I'm trying to say is sometimes you don't know what should be, but you do know what can no longer be. Another reason why I get so frustrated with that whole topic is because I don't like this idea that people look at people like me and they think that life is a lot easier for us, therefore we shouldn't be considered autistic. There is a specific type of struggle and suffering for people like me who don't look autistic and who can seem like we have our shit together when behind closed doors, it's really fucking hard to make it seem like that. Like, it's really freaking hard to live with something that is invalidated in every single freaking space that you enter. It's really freaking hard, and I look crazy with my makeup like this. Let me rub it off. I think I feel hurt because for the most part, everyone in the community is very validating of each other. Like, the groups that I'm in, like, you don't even have to be like officially diagnosed with autism yet, because for the most part, everyone knows how hard it is to get a diagnosis. Everyone knows that the journey is very complex. And just because you don't have that formal diagnosis doesn't mean that you should be discounted as a person. And this was honestly my first time seeing comments like that within the community, which really took me by surprise and honestly like hurt my feelings. The best way I can kind of explain this at this moment is just talking about like physical conditions. And I'm gonna use physical conditions to represent like the severity of autism. I'm not saying autism is a physical condition. This is just like an example of how I process this. Let's say someone has an obvious physical condition that everyone can see, like they're in a wheelchair and they're handicapped, right? Everyone can know right off the bat that this person has specific struggles and they need specific accommodations, things like that. But let's say there's someone else that struggles with severe arthritis. So they have really bad pain in their body every single day, all day. But you can't see it because it's happening inside of them. Let's say they still are able to maintain a job, let's say they're still able to relatively take care of themselves, but you don't see how much they struggle to do that. And let's say there's people out there who say like, oh, you shouldn't compare, your arthritis to other people's physical disabilities because it's just not that bad. It's not as bad. So it shouldn't be considered a disability, or you shouldn't even be put in the same category. It's just like a specific type of pain and struggle and loneliness to be expected to function like everyone else when you are so obviously wired differently inside. It feels so alienating to not feel like you belong in any community, to not feel like you're valid in any community, accepted in any community. And that's just like such a common experience that I have had throughout my life, people telling me how I should feel about myself. I just hate when people think that they are justified to tell another human how they should feel about themselves, what they should and shouldn't be doing with their lives, when in reality, all that person actually wants to talk about is how much they struggle themselves. Like perhaps your time is better spent focusing on expressing the things that you struggle with rather than invalidating other people's struggles. That's just a guess. Just a little guess. I reflect back on how I was when I was a child, when I was a lot more obviously autistic or ADHD. And I remember all the people in my life telling me how horrible of a person I was, how I needed to change myself, how everything I did was not okay. And then I had to learn over the years to suppress that aspect of myself and to try to learn how to assimilate, to stop getting scrutinized so much. And then now as I grow up, and I'm trying my best to find my way back to myself, there's other people within the community saying, well, you don't seem that bad or that autistic, so I don't think you should be considered in the same group as people like my nonverbal son or something like that. If you would have just seen how I really am, if that part of me was actually encouraged and allowed, maybe I would have been a lot more within the same group as your son. Like perhaps if I was allowed to be a little bit more authentically autistic growing up, I wouldn't seem non-autistic or whatever that even frickin' means. Sometimes I feel like I was born a fish and I had to learn to hold my breath in order to exist on land. Over the years, it became a norm for me. It doesn't make it easier. If anything, it makes it a lot harder and the struggle is freaking real, but I felt like I had no other way. And once I returned back to the ocean, the fishes in the water are like, well, you can be on land fine, so I don't think you should exist here in the ocean anymore. You're not meant to. You're not like us. Like, where do I go? I can't go on land. I can't breathe on there. I could try to hold my breath on there until I feel like I'm about to die. I can't exist in the ocean anymore because I don't belong there either. So like, where do people like me exist? Where do people like me belong? You know? And this is something I have to reiterate all the time to my loved ones in my personal life. In moments where like I'm becoming nonverbal, having a meltdown, having a shutdown, and then my loved ones expect me to keep functioning like an holistic person, and I have to stop and be like, do you understand? I am diagnosed with autism. I have autism. I don't know how to explain to you. I am not like you. I have needs. I have a developmental neurological disorder. It's almost like even my loved ones who may not have bad intentions need to be reminded of that, because when they see me, they don't see like my disorder, which is good in some senses, but like in moments where I really need like accommodations, people are not there to help or to even see it as valid. The amount of times where I'll go nonverbal and the other person's like, so you're just not going to talk to me? oh, you're just gonna you're gonna shut me out. And I'm just, in my mind, I'm like, they really think I'm like a normalistic person who's just giving them the cold shoulder. Like, they really think that. I want to end today's video with words of encouragement because I know I talked about some pretty heavy crap today, pretty controversial stuff too. And I think I got a little bit more heated than you guys are normally seeing me. If I could just say anything, is to just be nice to each other. We need to be accepting of each other, understanding, empathetic. Just know that everyone goes through their own struggles in their own ways, and no one's struggle is more valid than another's. We need to have solidarity amongst each other. And solidarity doesn't mean we can't hold each other accountable. Solidarity doesn't mean we're enablers if someone's doing something wrong. Solidarity just means that we understand that those of us who are all neurodivergent, like, we have to just support each other and be there for each other, right? And not go out of our ways to tear each other down. That's honestly what it really is like you spending your time to tear another autistic or neurodivergent person down and tell them that they're not valid. Like, let's not do that. If you have the time and space, hear someone else out. Listen to their story. Maybe there's something you can learn about it. That's the hard truth that I think I'm starting to realize now that I say it out loud. Sometimes a medical diagnosis is not enough. People will still tell you you're not this or that. I've never had to say this before, but I feel drawn to say it now. Your neurodivergency matters. And it's valid, regardless of if you've had a diagnosis yet. You're valid, your existence is valid, and everything you live with is valid.